All right, the second part of our conversation this morning has to do with the by and rerun elections that are held just this last weekend. Of course, as is always the case, following the aftermath of an election, we realize that people are reacting from different standpoints to this particular string of electoral exercises. Political party leaders, candidates, and of course the voting public have also lent their voices to this development. But to help us find more science, well, some people will say is the morning after. We're joined now by Dr. Jude Obasanmi, who is an electoral observer and civil society leader. Thank you, Dr. Obasanmi, for jumping on this conversation at short notice. All right, so where do we start from? Perhaps we should first of all talk about how that.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Dr.
Hello,
Obasanmi. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, good morning. How are you doing?
I've been well. Again, it's a delight to see you after a long time.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Right. So let's keep the main thing the main thing. Now, when these elections, I mean, off cycle, as we call them, were scheduled, there were people, including those in your civic space, who said that it will be some sort of exit test for the independent National Electoral Commission, that is INEC. But today, the president is commending INEC and thanking them for having done an amazing job. Apparently, the president is very impressed. Now, what do people in civil society think about this process?
All right. Thank you very much. If our president is commending INEC, I think we also go ahead to ask him the parameter they used in assessing INEC for him to say that they did marvelously well. I was privileged to join the team of observers that observed the elections in Edo Central. And what we could gather from our report, because we had about 120 observers from the Nigeria Society networks on ground. Sincerely, in terms of deployment, I would say that there was marked improvement in terms of deployment in most of the polling units we observed by, let's say, on the average of 8:20 a.m. Most of the polling offices were already opened, and some of them had, most of them, over 90%, had their materials for them to kickstart the day's activity. And in terms of police presence or security presence, I would say that yes, we had most of them, in most of the polling units and polling stations trying to ensure that there was peace. If we decide to look at the conduct of the party agents, party loyalists, and party faithfuls, apart from two cases where we recorded cases of, let's say, quarrel trying to negotiate for who to vote for them, we didn't have any major crisis. In terms of how the results were collated, yes, to an extent, it was fairly okay, but there's room for improvement. But if we now decide to look at the level of participation of the people, I would say that, sorry, it was very, very poor. So nobody can say that people came out to vote. In a particular polling unit that had about 1,006 registered voters. So if we just assume that, let's say, about 1,000 on the average were able to collect their PVCs, realize that they were struggling to get 200, accredited voters coming to do the needful. So most of them just felt that, sorry, it wasn't proper at all. They lost confidence in the processes, and now for them they feel that all these politicians is not worth dying for, so to say. And they just feel that, sorry, let me stay at home and do my activities. When we did the work around some communities, some local government councils, for example, Ekpoma, Ira, the headquarters, Igwe, we realized that people were it was just a normal day for them, right? Those who could play football were doing that on the major road. Those who could go to the market, to their stores to sell their items, they were also doing that. So for me, I will need to begin to change the programming, particularly for those of us who are involved in governance. We need to change the programming because people are gradually losing faith. They don't say anything too important. exercising their civic right. I see no reason whatsoever that if we are clearly making progress, and this time around now, even though it was all circle election, one would have expected that more persons will come in to vote, but the number of persons that came out to vote was not too significant, despite the fact that most of the polling units were quite friendly. Unlike before, where you to have a lot of military deployment. This time around, it wasn't that much. Only saw the military maybe on the express road trying to find out from persons and from where they were going to. And they were quite a bit very, very civil. So generally, I would say that it's not yet time for us to begin to commend INEC, because though they did 11, I can just call them 51%. They room for more work by INEC, because the adult personnel they even use, most of them have the capacity. At times we have to be the one to help them to know how to maneuver the beaver machine for it to work. In other words, we are made to understand that they only had less than 3 hours training on Friday for an election coming up on Saturday. So you can see that in terms of preparation to ensure that the adult personnel had better knowledge about what they expect to do on the field that day, that was very, very poor. And I think the INEC should scale up the process and ensure that people that are adult personnel know what they're expected to do to avoid being cajoled or threatened or harassed by these creative politicians who always come up with various ways of breaking the law. And interestingly too, we observe what are they called an upgraded vote trading pattern. What do I mean by this? At the polling unit, like before, where you go there to see people holding cash, if most of us try to identify cash or those who are giving out the cash, that was not there at all. But rather, before that time, they already confirmed from all the parties, right? And they were giving out this form. This form were given out to them a day before. Some of them were to collect 10K. They give them 5K with the assumption that, or the premise that if you go to the field, you vote for their party, you get the balance. And somebody was there now trying to track to make sure that you actually voted for their own candidate. So you can see these politicians, they are still interested in vote trading. People want to sell, and people are also prepared to buy from them because of the hardship that they have faced in Nigeria, because of the way some of our leaders begin operate, so that when they are voted into office, they forget about the people. Like somebody said, that I beg, make I collect my own, come on. It's very sad and painful. But generally, the election was quite peaceful. And if this election should go in terms of security-wise, people's participation, that would be fair. But I believe that we need to begin to change our program in terms of winning back. I mean, the term now, winning back the confidence of people in the electoral process, because most people just feel that no need for me to stress myself to go on that day to go and vote.
All right. Amongst other things, one of the elements that stand out in your commentary is the fact that there was significant, almost palpable voter apathy this last weekend during those electoral exercises. But let's talk about the indicators of a free, fair, and credible election. Because since 1999, when we got on this journey that we now call the Fourth Republic, the cry has always been that elections are largely not free, fair, and credible. So how do we determine that elections in this country are free, fair, and credible?
It does not only lie with INEC, because INEC happens to be the umpire. Like I always tell people, if there's no buyer of a particular commodity or a particular service, the seller may not be interested in going ahead to go and sell the product. So since the state of Nigeria, so to say, particularly first, second, and third republic, we have been having these issues, and that one led to the series of efforts to ensure that there were reforms in electoral law. But you can say, even with these reforms, there are still some, very obvious gaps, of which some of us just feel that we need to begin to change our programming. People will continue to complain. Recall, apart from the election of 1993, Abiola's era, whereby both the good, the bad, the ugly, everybody are claimed to be the fairest. But at the end of the day, there was no result. So we're not going to conclude, therefore, that if the election is free and fair, there may not be result. And if the election is not free, and it's not fair and not credible, there might be results. So you can see this current trend. After that particular year, we had something close to that in 2015, where they had an election, though there were a lot of malpractices, but the loser, then President Jonathan, agreed and said, "Oh, no problem, the The blood of a Nigerian is not worth whatever ambition he had. So you can see thereafter, people we felt that okay, gradually people were now getting interested. In 2023, people came out to vote. But what happened thereafter in terms of various litigations, how the issues went, people were not satisfied, even at the federal level, at the state level, people were no longer comfortable. They just felt that, sorry, my vote no longer counts. But from here, I believe that we can begin to share, gather experiences from neighboring countries that have the same populations, near the same population with us, or those that have the same demographics. Right, I was privileged to have observed the Ghanaian election, and you need to see the processes. The people own the process, right? What INEC could not do, the people came out to facilitate that. But in the case of Nigeria, sorry, everybody is thinking of how I can circumvent the system to benefit my own party. If there's a problem here and then, and they feel that, sorry, if we resolve this issue, it may not favor us, there might be crisis. Let's not forget, we cannot in any run out from electronic voting, because that is where the world is going into. But somebody will also ask, you've not been able to do this kind of glorified manual system, and we're talking about electronic voting. But we must begin to be thinking of that. Well, even as far as you can use your ATM machine and collect money from an account, from your own account, why can't you do that? So, for me, we have a lot of work to do. The voter register, as I have been saying, needs to be cleaned up. We are talking about close to over 100 million, 97 million registered voters as at 2023. But the question is, how many of them are active? Some might have traveled, some might have died, some might have not been, some must have happened to them that will require that we need to clean register. That is not taking place. So you can see that if we talk about 200,000 person registered in a particular ward or local government council, the number of active voters is very, very infinitesimal. So you cannot use that figure to begin to judge your performance. So I strongly believe that what we need to do is to keep on to talk to our people and to hold our elected officers accountable. We voted into office, not for you to, before you vote into office, you join on the street to eat maize, you join on the street to fry akara, and once you are elected, in less than 24 hours, you are now on tinted glass, nobody can see you. The people must begin to make this a leader much more accountable and transparent, and must be involved in the process. And again, too, now, what we also need to do in terms of ensuring that people can believe in the system, that this frequent decamping, recamping, all the camping going on, it's not proper. It's not proper. It's a major challenge. You cannot win an election under a particular party when you emerge and you are in office, you now decamp and you don't lose your seat. By the time you realize that people want to decamp at any level, you lose your seat. It will gradually build some level of confidence that yes, let us vote for our people, and they know that once they decamp, so to say, they lose their seat. But this time nothing happens. So they use the people to ascend to that particular position, and they abandon the people in their decamping processes. Did they consult their constituents or their party faithful that they want to decamp? They never did. Most of them only saw their decamp exercise on TV, which is not too proper. So I believe that if government can further reduce the level of poverty in the land, it will also help us. We must confess, there is poverty. People are suffering. People are unable to eat. Somebody told us yesterday, a day before yesterday, that please, I beg, this 10,000 naira can go a long way in helping to get food for me and my family to eat. So you can see that the politicians have gone ahead to widen the gap between them and the masses. Not until you begin to close this gap gradually, that's when you can begin to have an election that people will believe that they should come out and actually party. For now, I must confess, people are losing hope in the electoral process in Nigeria.
Quite a sad narrative there. But I need to ask you this, for example. Yaga Africa, a frontline independent election monitoring organization, following these last weekend's polls, now says that, look, the political class is not ready to obey rules, is not ready to align itself with law and order. And then that makes you wonder, at what point are we going to leave, as they say, the woods? Because it will appear that we have people, individuals, political parties, money bags who are above the law in this country. With that sort of reality, are there odds? Is there a chance that Nigeria as a country will improve significantly on its electoral processes and outcomes anytime soon?
Okay, thank you very much. As a Nigeria that is committed to the Nigerian project, I believe that someday, somehow, we'll get there. Recall this last election that took on Saturday. You had us from this starting where some people start their books with money. We only heard of that they were arrested. I think the next question people will begin to ask is that what happened thereafter? Was that person or group of persons prosecuted? In the previous election, we had some persons who were involved, in snatching of ballot boxes and what have you. None of them were prosecuted, apart from the two professors or so who went ahead, who could not prophesy their professorial positions to manipulate an election, and they were sentenced. Other persons, I just feel that yes, I'm being sponsored by somebody and I have that kind of cover. And I tell you, politicians in Nigeria are very creative in the negative aspect. When Beavers came on board, some of us, for example myself, I applauded it and said, fine, it will help us to reduce, not to eradicate, this issue of manipulation of results and what have you. But along the line, these guys were smart enough, and they went up to ensure that, you were able to leverage on the lacuna in the clause, the electoral clause that talks about the format in which result can be uploaded. And I was shocked again, the particular exam for that state where they now said that the amount recorded, tracked by the Beavers machine, was less than the amount announced. The question is, how come you now put your car is able to carry, let's say, convey 5 passengers, and you wrote a bill for them, 5 passengers. Only at the point of disembarking, you are now having 20 passengers in the same small vehicle that could only carry 5 persons. The question is, what went wrong? Is INEC trying to find, is INEC interested in investigating? So I believe that this issue will continue until the people now feel government doing the needful. It I must confess, not until there's a reasonable level of reduction in poverty and improvement in the quality of life of Nigerians, vote buying and vote trading will continue. Because they just believe that the only time they can see these men to collect their own funds that they would have used to make the roads is during election, electionary period. That's what is trending. So for me, I believe that we can get there, but there has to be a major reform in electoral laws. I thank God that it's currently going on now, but one to say that you can listen to the cry of the people and make it much more beneficial in such a way that the people will also know that yes, we have a country that cares for the people. But for now, every government in power puts in place a particular law that enable them to effectively have a smooth election, a smooth election when it time comes for them to go for to contest. So for me, it's quite sad and painful. So the people never have a major role to play by holding our leaders accountable. All of us cannot come to Osadebe Avenue to meet our governor, Senator Okwewolu. All of us cannot go to the local government council chairman. Talking of going to Abuja to meet President Tinubu, but all of us know, most of us should know our councillors. Because it's said close to you, most of us have access to the local government chairman. They get funds, they get so many resources, nobody bothers. They just feel that let us stack our funds. And when the time comes, we know them now, just download some carrots. They will follow you. As I said before, poverty is high, unemployment is high. All these indices are some of the things that influence some persons to do otherwise when it comes to election. And the politicians are prepared more than ever to be talking to have good plan on how to maneuver. This is 2025, and if you go all around Nigeria, I've been privileged to travel around some major states the last 1 month. The big boss now are talking about 2027, and ask somebody, is it that Nigeria as a country has skipped 2026, and from 2025 we're not talking about 2027? It's quite sad and painful. So I prefer to know that we are the people that are expected to vote for them. We are the people that they should serve us, not us serving them when they are elected into office.
All right, permit me, Dr. Obasanmi, to bundle two questions into one here real quick. When the Electoral Act came on stream about 3 years ago, there were people who got really excited, thinking that it will become more like, if you like, a game changer. Others, realistically or otherwise, also thought that it might just be the, well, for want of better words, magic wand that we had all been waiting for. That's the number one question. Has that happened? Well, we want to see. Then the second is the continuous voter registration exercise by INEC has been on or is starting this week. Let's talk about whether or not these exercises, all of these efforts, are in vain.
I thank you very much. You see, I always tell people that laws are made for man and not man for the law. So if at any particular time, any point in time, people feel that there are some gaps in a particular law that was designed and put in place or enacted to regulate the people, and they're not comfortable with it, I think that there's a need for a reform. You are going to Lagos, and along the line, you end up, your car is now facing worry. It's safer for you to return, maybe get to some place. It's fine, I'm going to Lagos, why am I facing worry? Turn back and get the right direction and you follow. So there's nothing wrong at all. Yeah, most of us expected that the reform that we have been advocating for, will come to solve it. But particularly in the area of printing of results, all of us saw what transpired. Different persons were having different results. We heard of the IREF failing. We heard of network issues and many more. And for me, I believe that there's high need for us to begin to improve. Yes, the law is there, but there's a need for a proper reform to capture all this. And what I'm also advocating for is that everybody should be allowed to vote. Declining or disenfranchising maybe those on essential duties like security, doctors, and medical personnel and what have you not to vote is not proper. Or even abroad, our people that in diaspora, they should be encouraged to vote. But have we been able to manage those of us in Nigeria now that are expected to vote and have vote you count? The answer is no. So I believe that the reform currently advocated for must be sustained. There's nothing wrong going by 2027. There's not a need for another review. It's a law. The law is not meant to kill us, but to ensure that things are done properly. Yes, we mentioned this issue of continuous voters registration, which is CVR. We engaged the Inec'S, I think prior to the 2024 Edo elections, when INEC went ahead to start the process of voter registration. After a time, they paused. And when we engaged, I don't want to mention the name of the officer we met. He said, "Sir, you call this exercise continuous voter registration. How come is it that you just pitch people, they have 1 week, they have 2 weeks, they have 3 weeks to register. Thereafter, you no longer have access. What about those who were able to get to 18 years, few months to the election? What about those who are unable within that limited time frame now to be captured?" So if they are calling continuous voters registration, it should be a process. Anytime, for example, I decide to find out that now I'll be convinced I want to go and register, you go to any INEC office, either at the state or the local government level, and go and get yourself registered. But that's not the situation. They keep on doing the people that are having continuous voter registration. For me, it is not continuous. The job voter registration, this product is set aside for you to go and register. And again, when people register, how many of them get their PVCs? The number is very, very significant. You understand? Very, very significant. Go to INEC office, they will tell you that, sorry, look at the heap of PVCs, nobody has come to collect. But what effort has INEC done to reach out to this individual to get their PVCs? Recall, when you go to get your register for your PVC, they take your phone numbers. Why can't they use those phone numbers to track the owners of these PVCs? You can make a national announcement that social PVCs are available. You have between social period to come and pick it. By the time you're able to exhaust some of these cards, you now come back and clean your register before any election. You now know the number of persons that are available to be accredited and can be also be voted for. But the situation is not like that. Politicians have access to these voters register. And that is why before the before the election, for those who have it before the election, and you see them phoning you, calling you, send text message that you vote for the candidate. Why can't INEC too? They know the same strategy. And so we find these are the people's cards have not been collected. Let's see how we can reach them. But they're not doing that. They are complaining. You understand? They complain of so many things. But on the issue of CVR, I would say that the performance is very, very poor. They deploy these machines to communities. And when they deploy, because I observed that of last year, they deploy, they will not mobilize, give fund logistics to the INEC IDOC staff to be able to carry the machine to other communities. Rather, the politicians will get a vehicle, carry the machine, pack all of them, get the other supporting staff, and move them to their own community to go and get these things, to get people registered. What is INEC doing? So at times, INEC decides to just give out the responsibility or their core roles to other people, particularly politicians, to implement. And once there's a problem, they begin to complain. I tell you this, in a particular state, there was a time when it was close to an election, they now went to neighboring communities to go and get people to come and register. Right? They got themselves registered and they were able to manipulate the system. They got their PVCs. But on the day of the election, most of them who were scattered all over the neighboring states could not come to vote. So we ended now begin to blame the protest. No, they gave room for these guys to do whatever they wanted to do. And INEC should note this. The politicians are clever than INEC. And for as long as they continue to allow politicians to only dictate to them what they should do, it will be difficult. So we also appeal to the federal government now to ensure that the required releases in terms of funding is made available so that INEC can work, not 2 months on election. That's when I begin to deploy some funds. And again, the adult personnel should be paid. The one that did that of last Saturday, most of them have not been paid. So INEC, go and pay the people that are on the field to help you to do your work. Well done.
I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Dr. Jude Obasanmi, for this very brilliant conversation you had with us on Global Morning today.
Thank you very much. And once again, good morning. And to those elected, sorry, you owe a major responsibility to the people. Do your best. Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
All right, God bless Nigeria indeed. That's why we'll leave this conversation this morning. We'll take a quick break. When we return, it will be time to draw the curtains on Global Morning.